Now, the wildfire that swept across Hawaii a week ago turned one of the nation's most celebrated islands into an ashen moonscape. The wildfires had killed at least 101 people, a number that officials warn could double as search continues. U.S. President Joe Biden said that he will travel to Hawaii as soon as he can to review recovery efforts from wildfires that swept across Maui, killing dozens of people here.
I've spoken to Governor Josh Green multiple times and reassured him the state will have everything it needs from the federal government. I immediately approved the governor's request for expedited major disaster declaration. That's a fancy word of saying whatever you need, you're going to get. And that'll get aid into the hands of people who desperately need it, who have lost their loved ones, who have lost their homes, their livelihoods, who've been damaged and destroyed.
Meanwhile, to pace up the recovery and rescue efforts, a small number of active duty U.S. Marines have joined Maui's recovery efforts. The Hawaii National Guard, U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are already on ground. But a larger U.S. active duty response needs a formal request from Hawaii to begin the rescue operations there. The survivors of the devastating wildfires shared their harrowing stories after they returned to the burnt remains of what used to be their homes in the historic town of Lahaina. Local residents said that their families had lost everything in the disaster. Some even talked about how it's going to take years to rebuild and get their lives back to normal.
Volunteers offered water, food, and mental health services to residents of what was once the town of Lahaina on Hawaii's Maui Island after wildfires incinerated the historic waterfront community. Among those helping is Kanamu Balanbin.
First day that I went into Lahaina and to see the town where I coach football, where we do community events and we do fundraising for all the sports groups, I was devastated. I was a wreck. I needed mental health, and I considered myself a strong leader, but it broke me. It still breaks me. This is what keeps me going, helping people. A lot of us are at that stage.
Maui County briefly relaxed rules allowing Lahaina residents back to their homes, but suspended that on Monday after officials said curious sightseers abused the system, clogging streets used by rescue workers. Locals like Paeli Kiakona said the changing rules have left residents in a bind that the community is trying to address.
Locals were having such a hard time even getting in. There were roadblocks set up outside of Lahaina, preventing people from coming in and out of Lahaina, or coming into Lahaina perhaps. So there were much needed goods that we were basically deprived of. So people had to break the rules for us to get to this point right now. And I asked people, what would we really have right now if we didn't break those rules? People would be starving. People would be thirsty, starving, would not have clothes on their back. So this is the type of things that our community does best, and we stick together.
The inferno was fanned by winds gusting up to 80 miles per hour, burning at temperatures that Hawaii Governor Josh Green said reached 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The death toll from the disaster continues to climb.
As I shared earlier, the scale of destruction is incredible, so our hearts are broken even a little bit more than when we were together 48 hours ago with the extra fatalities. Also, that we're well over 2,200 structures that have been destroyed. 86% of them are residential.
Search teams with cadaver dogs have combed through 25% of the Lahaina disaster zone, and police say they are moving as fast as they can to complete their sweep.
Now, the Maui wildfires have left several survivors scrambling and displaced. Today, we are joined by one such survivor, Cole Mellington, who has taken out the time to join us at this rather difficult time and share his experience with us on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. To begin with, what is the situation on ground currently, and how did the relief and rescue efforts turn out for you and others around you?
About a week ago in the afternoon, I saw a large plume of black smoke out of my bedroom window. We were having crazy winds that day on Maui. We were gusting up to 90 miles per hour, really bad drought conditions, zero rain. So the giant black plume of smoke was really concerning me. I immediately told my roommates, hey, this looks really serious, and maybe we should think about grabbing some go bags and getting ready to leave the house in case it gets worse. Within about the next 10 minutes, we had to be running down into our vehicles. because the entire sky had turned a dark black plume of smoke and the roads were starting to fill with smoke. We did not get an emergency evacuation notice. I was the only one on my phone to receive one, and it was when I was already in my vehicle. In Lahaina, the town that I'm from, or the town that I live in, there's only one road that goes in and out. So my choice was either go towards the fire or go away from the fire. I pull out onto the street and there's down power lines, there's down trees, people are screaming, and I choose to go away from the fire. I get onto the main road to leave town and there's already hundreds of cars backed up onto the road. So it was not easy to escape. I sat in traffic for about 3 hours to get to the next town over, Ma'alaya. And at the beginning of that journey, I could see fire crossing the road and potentially affecting cars behind me. And I'm sure people had to get out and start running out of their cars from the fire. We got to a town called Kihei to take refuge. We had a friend who was going to take us in for the night. And when we got to that house, about a half an hour later, we all received alerts on our phone. Kihei might be on fire. You need to evacuate now. So it was a very stressful afternoon. I'm in Waihe'e right now on a family farm, staying in a 1-bedroom apartment. As you can see, I'm doing this interview from a bathroom because I have 15 other people here with me. We've all lost our homes, our businesses, all of our possessions. I made it out of my house with just my vehicle, my dog, and my laptop. Everything else is gone.
Well, I can barely imagine what that must be like. Now, I was going to discuss this as well. You've mentioned this. When the deadly wildfires raged across Maui on the 8th of August, how were you then warned and informed about the outbreak of the wildfire and the need to be evacuated?
I'm not sure why the evacuation sirens were not activated. I'm not sure why there were not police with megaphones telling us to leave or evacuate. I'm not sure why there was no warning at all. I'm not sure why my phone and no one else's phone got appropriately timed evacuations. My roommates didn't receive the warning that I had received at all. And my evacuation notice was too late. I was already evacuating, so it didn't give me a warning. The only way that I noticed that there was a fire is I happened to look out my bedroom window at the right time and see a giant black plume of smoke. Had I been, taking a nap or been in the kitchen cooking or anything else, I might not have noticed. And I wouldn't have been able to leave my house with any of my possessions, and I might not have even made it out of my home.
Right now, as the wildfire continues to cause severe damage all around Maui, what are your expectations from the government regarding further efforts to get the situation under control?
I've heard a lot and I've spoke to a lot of news, so I know the coverage is there. The immediate response has not been there at all. We have not responded, or the government has not responded at a local level to help my friends and I. It's my friends and I taking our personal vehicles and taking supplies and driving back over to the west side where dozens of my friends are missing right now. We're delivering supplies. The local companies are using their catamarans and their other boats to deliver supplies, but we don't have a National Guard presence here right now. I've barely seen a police officer on that side yesterday when I was there. It's community and it's the local population leading the rescue and the recovery effort right now. We feel completely failed by our local government. At a larger level, I'm hoping that in the next, day or two, the federal government will really step up and start showing up. But we really feel like we're left alone here right now. We feel like no one's showing up and helping us.
Mr. Mellington, thank you so much for joining us on the show. May you stay safe, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.